Welcome to week 2, lesson 1. I hope that after week 1, you now have a better understanding of the importance of technology within the supply chain and that you've worked through the assignment, the quiz, and that you've done all of your readings. I hope it has helped you appreciate the complexity of technology in the supply chain. In this week, we're going to turn our attention to a problem and sometimes an opportunity in the supply chain that we cannot ignore. That is a risk. And in this lesson, we're going to aim to understand and conceptualize the concept of risk. These are the learning outcomes that we hope to achieve. By working through your readings and your materials and through some of the discussions that may come out of this micro lecture, you should be able to provide definitions for the key concepts and explain and outline some of these applications in terms of supply chain risk, robustness, and resilience. Now, the subject of supply chain risk would have been of little interest to the general business management fraternity in the early 1990s, the 1980s, and the 1970s. And the reason for that is the world was smaller. The world was not as connected as it is today. But of course, times have changed. We cannot accept that a disturbance somewhere in the world would not have an impact on our operations. That would be naive in a sense. So, this chapter provides an introduction to that complex and fascinating subject of risk management. We cannot accept poor practice upstream in our supply chain, downstream in our supply chain. For example, if we've got a partner upstream in our supply chain responsible for doing significant environmental damage, we cannot ignore that. We have to do something about it. It does, of course, pose a risk to the integrity of our supply chain. The term risk, if we're looking in terms of definitions, can refer to either the probability or the possibility of an outcome based on a certain decision. So, what is the potential for some event to happen based on the decision that you've taken? It could refer to a particular threat, hazard, or negative consequence. It could also refer to the downside only or negative consequences of a rational decision. For example, you may decide out of a range of possible suppliers for a strategic component that you're going to choose just one supplier. That opens you up to significant risk if that one supplier goes out of business. And that's a downside only consequence. Risk is also multifaceted in the sense that from risk, you have what we call vulnerability. And supply chains are inherently vulnerable, whether it's local supply chains, regional supply chains, or truly global supply chains. But there are some initial ones that you need to ask yourself as a good supply chain manager. The first thing is, what is vulnerable? Is it a component? Is it a process? Is it a plant? What is vulnerable? And once you've identified what is at risk, you're able to make a more concerted and directed effort to address that risk. Vulnerability and the examination of vulnerability needs to take all of these into consideration. And that's an important point. When it comes to vulnerability, we should strive to identify and manage our known vulnerabilities by asking certain questions. The first one being, what disruptions have we had in the past? What risks have occurred in the past? What weaknesses do we have? And what near misses have we experienced? And this is not to say that you're entirely at fault, but this is a fantastic reflexive exercise to determine your relative state of vulnerability. You have to have an open and honest discussion about vulnerability in order to make yourself more resilient. And of course, if you want to be more proactive, you should ask effects based questions like, if a key material is in short supply, what are we going to do? What's the impact? If we lost our distribution facility or our assembly facility, what do we do? If a key supplier goes out of business, what do we do? Now, these are the core questions that you need to ask yourself in order to conceptualize the impact that risk events would have in the supply chain. I hope you found this micro lecture interesting, and as always, please work through your readings as well as watch the YouTube videos provided and work through the quiz. And this will broaden your understanding of supply chain vulnerability. Thank you, and I will see you in the next micro lecture.